All good. All right, excellent. Okay, well, folks, welcome to a first look at the editor. I'm going to start off with a couple of caveats, and if the moderators could just repeat those caveats every once in a while. What I'm showing you tonight is heavily in development. This is not finished. So expect some performance issues. This is running on my laptop. And some visual issues, like, for example, you'll notice I've got no sky. Doesn't stop you getting on and doing your work with the scenario editor. Yes, expect issues, but that's fine. Issues are fine. This demo is not with the version of the editor that is going to be going out publicly. This version of the editor I'm running here is the internal version. Now the difference, almost nothing, but I say that A, to be completely clear, and B, that there may be an odd thing that will appear that you won't see. So I'll give you one example. I've got this icon here, the instance tool icon. That one is not part of the public editor. What's that? Matt says, Matt, if you want the sky back, click the leaf key in the top left and then switch back. What, that one? Oh, hello. We have a sky. See, I'm glad. This is why we keep Ed around. Ed is good. Right. Okay, so couple of caveats there. What is the instance tool? I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's a roof building tool, but it's something that was bought in. So you'll be able, I think that if you buy it yourself, I think it's on the Unreal Marketplace. You might be able to use it. I don't know, but it's a tool that was bought in. Therefore, we can't give away other people's tools. There may be other buttons and switches and so forth, but for I think 99.9% is going to be exactly the same as what you get, so it should be okay. I'm getting people on Mixer saying that video is frozen. Is video showing up okay? Shout if it's not showing up okay for you. So if I just gently move the camera around here, are you seeing me panning around Holbeck okay? Triangle Hat says, what's the scope of the editor? Scenario map only, will you get asset tools as well? The editor will do everything we can do with it, essentially. If you're making brand new content, then you should be fine. So it's only if you try and access cooked content you're going to start running into some challenges, because Unreal doesn't actually support doing anything with cooked content. I'm not actually loading cooked content. This is actually the source, but this is what it looks like in the when it accesses the cooked version as well. So yes, if you want to import scenery from Blender, if you want to import it from 3D Studio, if you want to make your own trains, if you want to make your own wagons, coaches, if you want to make your own routes, scenarios, you can do anything you like. I think. Someone actually asked me a while ago, would you be able to make things like your own turntables with, operable controls? Yes, I don't see why not. So I'm gonna, because there's a great wealth of stuff, let me just expand some of these options before I go into one specific thing. So for example, network edit mode. This is the track editing tools. So you've got your ribbon loft descriptors, track rules. These display things, so you'll notice some of it's now showing up, and if you hover over things, you can get what's the radius at the point you're clicking on, what's the gradient and the height, what level of super elevation, and so you can really see a lot of what's going on with a piece of track just by hovering over it. And then in here you can highlight things, so is it a straight, is it a curve, and so forth, and what's the colour and how wide is the colour. So there's tons of customization you can do to the editor as well. If we now go to track laying, so what's your snap radii? Is it continuous gradient? Will you be snapping to the world? Snapping to end of ribbons, showing guides? All sorts of different things that you can do. What's the designed speed of the track, which I think affects the curve radiuses? Your minimum curve radius as well. Super elevation. Super elevation is quite cool. You pick the track up and twist it, rather than it being what's actually going on. In thinking TS1, I mean, I'm not a route builder, so this is me going way off on a tangent. I'm from outside of my comfort zone. I think in TS1 you set super elevation up in track rules, and it was the same one for everywhere that used that track rule. In here, you just pick the track up, and this is the new widget, by the way, as well. you pick the track up and you can just twist it to get your super elevation. Obviously, you need to build your track with easements, and there are some extra tools to help you with easements as well. This is the transitional gradient. So TS World has vertical curves, as what they're called. So whereas in TS1, to transition from going straight to, say, going down, there would be, however small, a bump, essentially. And so there is a tool in TS1 that if you block mark a section, it will smooth it out, but it's actually still just making it a bunch of straight lines still. Whereas TS World supports full vertical curves, so you get a full curve transition when you're taking that into account. Does Superelevation account for design speed? I want to say yes, but I'm not knowledgeable enough to say that with any I don't know what I'm talking about bluntly on that one, but I think it does. What are the similarities from the TS1 editor chances? There's a lot. I mean, laying track is a very similar process. If you can lay track in TS1, this is going to feel very familiar, although you'll actually see, what you'll find is some of the things that perhaps are a little bit awkward, maybe, that you didn't quite, that were more difficult to get used of, you should find it easier. I've certainly found it easier when I've been playing about laying track down, that I found it just very familiar, very same process, but just things that maybe didn't quite work where I wanted them to now work better. It's difficult to describe. Like I said, I'm not a root author, so the reason for showing you into this is just to give you a brief overview of, look at some of the options that are in here, so that you can, they might mean more to you than they do to me. So, Nitrobird, do we add tiles one by one? How does it work for new routes? So under File, we've added a new route. And what that will do is create all of the folder structure for the different layering systems. We use multiple maps layers, one for track, one for scenery, and so forth. And you can then import. We've got importer. So this, I think it's this one, yeah, route building mode. This has then got stuff for bringing in. So you can integrate it to World Machine. You can bring in KML guides and OpenStreetMap guides in here. You've also got create tiles. This is where you'll create tiles around you, and then there's ways of dragging in dem data as well. So it's where Unreal has a process where you make a tile and you do it. This kind of automates a lot of that for you. It is quite easy to use. I'm building the Alexandra Railroad in North Carolina just to sort of get the hang of the tools. It's not going to be any good, but it's actually getting it to the point that all the terrain was in and all the guides were on, ready to start laying track, was really easy. So that's going to be quite easy for people. Joining and merging of track curves, that's nothing you haven't seen before. Welding, again, the same. Setting the end heights, track ranges and track properties. These are quite interesting. So these are some of the siding markers, but then you can turn things on and off in here. So ancillary markers, whether there's electrification, and all sorts of different physics properties. I don't know whether it's speed limits. They're not showing up. Oh, here they go. So speed limits and the directionality of track are rendered by using these things. So you can see that there's two speed limits, and you can see how they relate to each other. And you can also see that speed limits are bidirectional. So there's lots of information you can dig out. Attaching linkable objects to the track, so that's things like cargo loading and signals and so forth. I'll go a little bit more into signals in a minute because there's some interesting changes there. Track joints. So track joints, you place track joints, they can be placed automatically according to the track rule that you're using, or you can, I won't do it on this, but you can click and put track joint anywhere you like, or delete a track joint, so that you can get the clicks and the clacks everywhere that you want them to be. This is Superelevation twisting. You can see where it's all around here. Creating lofts offset from the tracks. Managing track sections. So you can see that the way that the system works is that it automatically creates all of these sections on the track, so that you can see where different bits... it's about block occupation and so forth. So if you have a train travelling down a section of track, then it occupies this track section, and blocks will be across multiple sections, but you'll notice when you come to junctions they have their own track sections, and so this is actually only one vehicle can be in a block. So once it clears, if you're travelling across here and you clear out of that, this track section becomes free, which might allow a train to come that way depending on how the rules are. I mean, in this instance it probably wouldn't, but it gives you a lot more freedom, and you can actually see. That's what I'm getting at, Dan H. Yes, signals now work as they actually should. They work by managing block occupation. Well, I'm going to show you how to make scenarios is the main thrust of today, and you'll see this actually in action. You can see when you're running it, you can switch all the block occupation stuff on the map in the game, and you can see what the dispatcher's doing. So we'll get to that in a minute. But yes, I wanted to show you some of this stuff that you can visualize in terms of what's going on in there. And then there's the overhead line equipment wiring that you can do as well. Now, I don't know how to use it. There you go. You've got regenerate overhead wires. You've got stuff. I don't know how you use it. What I do know from looking at what someone said was if you wanted a gantry across here, heaven forbid, that's a really bad place, but if you wanted it across here, you would click, drag across here, it would automatically size and place the gantry and put the drops in all the right places, ready for the wires to be wired up. And it's all set up because it works out where the track is below it and puts the drops in all the right places. So actually laying gantry in certain complex areas like this becomes really quite trivial to get it right, and you don't have to custom model it, which is a real time saver. So, Karma99, cook content, does that mean you can't use any existing content in a new route of your own? No, that's not quite what that means, because it would normally, but we've spent a lot of time making it to where you can use the content, any of the cooked content, so you can place cooked scenery, can be put in your routes because you're only referencing it, so it doesn't actually matter that it's cooked. So we've spent quite a lot of time making it to where you can do that. So you can load stuff and you can use it. You can't change it. It's changing it is where things start to get tricky. So, but even reskins potentially are looking like they'll be possible as well, quite easily. Seriously, what is cooked content? It's difficult to explain. So essentially, you create content. You imagine you've got an asset which has got some data in it, and then there's other data about it that supports it, that tells the editor how to do it. So for example, if I open up a blueprint, so if I open up, I'm going to show you what this is properly in a minute, but you see this is a timetable. The X and Y locations and the colour of this background, and the fact that there even is a background there, is useful for the editor, but it makes no sense and it's completely unnecessary for running the game. And so when you cook the data, it strips all of that rubbish out. It gets rid of it entirely, and that helps the game use a lot less memory when it's running. It makes it faster to load, higher frame rate when it's running. What your problem is then is if you take the cooked version of this, you can't load it because it's missing the colours and the coordinates and everything else. That's kind of the difference there, and that applies to everything. Can AI trains do runarounds on their trains? Yeah, AI can do just about anything. It's actually quite flexible in this. Will scenarios be uploaded to Steam Workshop? Hopefully. Hopefully, that's one of the things we're looking at. Okay, right. I am going to start looking at a scenario. Now, I thought one of the things that I've seen asked an awful lot is, can we put X train on Y route? And since the 33 just came out and Leeds Manchester just came out, I thought, why don't we put the 33 on Leeds Manchester, and can we make it do something fun with that? So how do we start? So let's start off by creating a plugin. So up here we're going to do a plugin, and we're going to create a new plugin. Sorry, the windows are popping up on the screen below. Here we go. It's going to be a content only plugin, and I'm going to call it Demo Pack 01, and we'll click create. Right, what that's done is down here, there we go, I've created this folder here called Demo Pack 01. So in here we can now create a folder which we're going to call Scenarios, and in here we need to create a thing called an asset manifest, or a content manifest. content manifest. So content manifest tells TrainSim World what content is inside this plugin. And we'll come to what that actually, we'll do something with that in a minute, but for now we'll leave it empty. Inside scenarios, I'm going to make a folder called trains, and I'm going, oh no, not, don't be silly. I'm going to make a folder called dem01, because that won't be confusing later on. I am going to create a scenario tonight, but it won't be available for download, I'm afraid, Bus Driver. There are other logistical issues with that aspect of it. So we're inside demo 1, which is going to be our scenario. Inside here, I'm going to create trains. I'm going to create tiles, which is where custom scenery can go. Under here, I'm going to create a route timetable. Demo 1 TT. So when I'm naming stuff, I quite often will put some ID for the scenario because it makes it easy to search later on. And then I'll put the suffix of what kind of it is, like _TT for a timetable, or I need to make a scenario definition, which is this, and that will be dem01 SD. This should be getting a bit predictable at this point. And I need to make a scenario manager. It's a case of, at the moment, don't worry too much about why. That'll be more a subject of tutorials, I think. But what I wanted to do is get into some of the more meaty aspects of this, so that you can see what you can actually do with the system. What route is this on? This is on Leeds Manchester. Right. Okay. So we've got the basic stuff set up. Let's save this out. If it's got a little asterisk on it, then it's not saved. And Unreal keeps things in memory. So in the timetable, then we need to choose the route that it's on, which is Leeds Manchester. Just save that change. We'll be coming back to that file. Scenario definition file is where we give it a name. So this is demo stream scenario 1. Demo 01. This is the first demo scenario. 33 on Leeds Manchester. Can folders and folders be named anything other required names? No, you can call them anything you like. Use whatever folder structure you like. You don't have to use what I'm using. And demo 1. This is where having the same thing is helpful, because you can search and instantly find what you're looking for without having to worry too much. Right, let's set a time and date up for that. 2018. Set it in June, because why not? It's happier and warmer time than right now. We'll set it for 10 AM. What weather do we want? I think we'll just go with a nice clear day. Adam showed lots of rain, so I think we'll just go with an LMC clear sky preset. If you want it to be wet at the beginning of the scenario, you can do it by just winding that up. If you want it to be initially snowy, you can wind that up. I need to set the scenario manager, so demo 1, and there it is. And we need to tick auto generate. So the auto generate will make it to where, as we create instructions in the timetable, it will automatically put them up to objectives into the thing that you see on the screen, which is what you're used to seeing. If you don't do that, then they don't become objectives, and it's kind of just very confusing. But there are reasons why you might not want to do that. So that's why they've been left as they are. Okay, so we'll leave that. So that's pretty much scenario definition. We'll be back to that in a minute. Let's have a look at the route map. So this is the route map in the editor. We are sitting over at Holbeck Depot here. Now in the editor version of the route, you'll notice if I hover over this, I don't know if you can see at the bottom, you can't, I'm in the way. Such a cool thing, and I'm in the way. Let me just move myself up. Notice the name. Oh, hello. Notice the name of the places in there as well. There's lots and lots and lots of other information that you get from this as well. So you can get speed limits, you can get all sorts of information from that, so you can see the names. And when we're actually running, you can get other information as well about what's going on. So that's platform 10. So we are going to put a 33 in siding 19. So let's create a new formation, which is going to be the player loco. And we're going to set that to I'm going to do this. You don't have to do this. If you, depending on how you want to make it, you don't have to make your own consists for things like single vehicles. You could just find it, type 33, and put the RVD, which is rail vehicle definition. That would work. That gives you a 33 that you can put around. But I want to customize that 33. I want to just tweak it a little bit. So under trains, I am going to create a data asset of a train formation. So this train formation is like a consist. And this will be a low fuel 33. And in here, I'm going to put my 33. So this is where I'll put the rail vehicle definition. Cargo loaded, I will tick. But I'm only going to give it, so that needs to be DA fuel. And that needs to be set to say 50, which is enough to get the loco started. But we ain't getting very far on it. Everything else I'm going to leave as it stands. We'll talk about that later on as we do other formations. So I can now set that to low fuel 33. Will people be able to have full control over points? When you're making a scenario, you can send a train in where you want, but if once you're playing the scenario, then once you're playing the scenario, then the dispatcher controls the points. So you'd set the scenario up to route trains where you want them to go. Did you say you could mix trains and routes? So that's literally what I'm doing now. I'm putting the 33 on Leeds Manchester. So I'm going to create a service, which is the player light low coast. Just leave it at that. We'll start it at 10 o'clock because it's the beginning of the scenario. Over on the right, lots of properties on the right for all different things here. Don't have to worry about, some of this stuff is more useful in service mode. So this would be the name that shows up on the list of services in service mode, for example. Service mode is done using this timetable as well. Timetable is used to control train movements. What I want to do actually is I need to get this player loco and put it. So I click pick location, back to the map. Of course, having done that, what I haven't done is told it that this is the scenario that I needed to be looking at. Let me just set as play and editor scenario. There you go. My loco has appeared, but it's not where I want it. It's right there. So let's just pick another location. I'll put it there, and then we'll flip it. Click backwards. Can you edit locos like change the paint job? So reskinning should be possible, yes. Right, let's just save that out. So the loco is now facing the correct way, the way we want it. Essentially, we're going to come down here, go back up to refuel it, come back down here, come back up here, reverse all the way up to Leeds, couple to some coaches, and then I thought we'd drive to Huddersfield. So that's kind of the plan. So how do we do that? So we're starting here. I want to go to Holbeck MPD siding 1. So we go to, drop the box down, Holbeck MPD siding 1. Right, that's the first one. First thing you need to do when you're doing a go to a siding or a destination rather than a specific point is change your go to a within. And then I need to go to, so let's put that up there. And we need to go back to the fuelings point, which is fuel shed 1. And then we need to load. We are only loading, we're not unloading. We are loading a specific fuel type, which is DA fuel. So that will do the loading of the fuel. It's not hard at all actually. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually really quick. The other thing that's really nice, if you want to do it again, copy paste. Want to do it 4 times? Copy paste. You can repeat instructions. So if you make a pattern that goes from one end of the route to the other and back again, you can then just copy paste that 15 times and have it running up and down the route all day very easily. Right, so that's that. Now I need to go. Actually, I need to go back to there. So let's just copy that instruction so I don't have to do it again. That one's a within. That one needs to be a within. Having done that, I now need to go to Leeds. Wait until you see the couple instruction. That's when things get very cool. Even cooler, should I say. So I'm going to put the coaches on platform 8A. but I'm not going to go to 8A. What I need to do is approach. I'm going to stop it at just in front of L629 here, so that you approach to a red and then carry through. So I'm going to say pick a specific location, and then I can just click on the route where I want it to go. You notice I'm doing all of this in the 2D view, so it's so much faster compared to flying around loading 3D assets. You can do a lot of this in the 3D view as well, but it's just so much quicker in the 2D view. Now I can set a custom description. Rather than it saying just stop at specified location, I can say leads signal L629, and that's now going to say stop at signal at leads L629 on the display in the game. And then I need to do a couple to. Now we'll get into what that does in a minute. And then I think I'm just going to end the service, and then we'll start a fresh service for heading actually westbound with the passenger service. Now, what are we coupling to? We're coupling to some coaches. So let us go ahead and make ourselves a formation of coaches. We'll have a data asset, a train formation. I'm just going to use the West Somerset Mark 1s. Player coaches. And in here, I am going to Mark 1 TSO. Now, if I want, I don't need to change any of this. It's all good, so we'll leave it as it is. But what I will do is I will duplicate these, and I will have 3, that's 4, 5, 6, go for 7, add one more to the end, which will make as our BSO. And what I do want to do is just randomly take one of the coaches and change it for the TSO chocolate one, the Western region one. You can't see it visually in the 3D world, no, Nathan. And you don't really need to be honest. It's for the most part, it's much quicker just to do it this way round. Right. So I've got the formation. We need to place it. Now we are placing it up here, because you'll notice this is what you can see. So this is the 33, is this blue box. So you can position things accurately if you want to. But it's just this blue box that you see. You don't see the actual thing. Lord Plumbers, the Mark 1 is a BG on Leeds Manchester, but I'm using West Somerset stock just for the giggles, really. Right. So I need route map. I need to put some coaches in there. So in the timetable, we create a new formation. I'm going to call it player coaches. And we're going to set that to... Can't remember what I called it now. That's the one. And we'll pick a location to place it. And I'll place it about there. That's placed it quite nicely there. And then all you do is put that up to there. So what that's saying is, get to lead signal L629 and then go to couple that up, and it'll mix these coaches and try and create one new service out of those two. So coupling, all of a sudden, this isn't a simple list. This becomes a 2D diagram. This is where things get really interesting, because uncouples give you two outputs the same as coupled has two inputs. So runarounds can be done by uncoupling and then reconnecting to it as well. What you do need to worry about is, have they coupled the right way round? Is the front to the back and all the rest of it? So what the game will actually do is it will automatically calculate. So if you look here, it knows I've got a class 33 at that instruction, and its GUID is 448, whatever. It doesn't matter exactly what it is, but it's useful to understand. Now, if we have a look at the route map, this is here. By the time it's gone forward and back up to here, it's actually the back of the 33 that we want to be coupling, and that's the front of that consist. So if we check this instruction, it's wrong. So it needs to be the 33's back against the front of this. And if we look now, it's now listing the 33 followed by the coaches. And so when you do your coupling and your uncoupling operations, you can actually track which vehicles are travelling where throughout the route, essentially. Which actually makes it much easier to see what's going on. So I can now be pretty sure that's now set up correctly. It's like in TS1 where you'd have couple to front, couple to back, and things like that. This has actually got, you've got a bit more flexibility, and you can also see in real time what's going on. So having coupled up to those coaches, we now need to create a new service, which would be the return run, or the westbound run. So we're going to call that the player passenger run. Create an earliest opportunity. I don't care about the time, just get it ready as soon as it's ready to go, because obviously the player might have taken ages to get to it. I can now say go to. I'm not going to stop anywhere along the way. Why would I? When there's Huddersfield to be had, why would I waste time stopping somewhere else? So I now want to stop at Huddersfield platform 8. So again, up here, I just type it in, click on it, make sure that's set to within, and we are all good. That will get us there. Now, what I don't know is what route that's taken, although other thing I need to do is this overlap instruction. If you notice how on some of the scenarios, when you come up and stop, sometimes you have to be really precise before it'll actually trigger. That's managed by this go-to tolerance. By default, as you can see, it's 25 centimeters. I normally make that something much bigger. That's going to be 10 meters, which is a bit more relaxed. So we can end service there. Now, wouldn't it be nice to see what pathing all of this is going to take? So I can compile that timetable, and it's told me that it's created 2 separate paths, because there's 2 services, and given me a tick to say it worked. So that tells me this works as a path. So I can click save, and I can go to the route map. Actually, let's go to the timetable, and we'll let's click on the fueling instruction, which is there. Right. Go back to Holbeck. Notice this white line has appeared. So this white line is telling me that I'm going to be pulling out to here and then coming back to there, and that's the final location up to the point that I'm at. Everything that's white is a block that was allocated for my purpose, so that you can see the junctions are lined up as well. So that's that first instruction. That's looking good. I'm happy with that. So let's go to MPD siding 1, and you can see we're now located here. This is where we're going to go to, and now I need to go up to signal. Oops. So you can see the path now extends back up, and I'm now waiting for this signal. Then we couple to the back of the formation, come back up to here, and you can now see my loco coupled up with this formation and ready to go. And then if I choose the stop at Huddersfield, we can see that we proceed out of Leeds. We take the main line up this, and this is where you can just follow. Am I correct line running? Does it do something weird? Do you remember on Great Western where sometimes it would run you on the wrong line? Well, this is how you can check, and this didn't exist when Great Western was done. You can check now in great detail, has it routed you correctly, and then you've not, you can put go vires in. There's something cool about go vires as well, so you can see where it's running you across these junctions. That all looks good. I'm happy with that. We stay in correct line, and then as we approach Huddersfield, we're being wrong lined, and then we cross over and we cross into that platform there. So that actually is good. I'm happy with that path. So I know the path is good. That's an excellent place to be. If I didn't like that path, what you can do is you can reroute it. It's not good. Why is it not good, Ed? Can you adjust how sounds work? You can't really modify things that are coupled. It shouldn't route you over that crossover. I don't know what that crossover is, Ed. You're going to need to be a little bit more precise. Oh, do you mean where it's coming across here rather than just going straight? Yeah, why is it doing that? That's bizarre. Okay, good example. Let's not do that. That does seem odd. So let's go in here. Now you've got 2 ways of rerouting trains. All right, you near Roving Station. You should be kept on the right 2 tracks, not bringing you to the left 2. Ah. So that's here. So instead of bringing me over here, it should be keeping me on this line. So what I can do then is you can do built-in go vias, or you can do explicit go vias. So if I create a new stop at instruction, I go to, I can say there's an is stopping flag here, and if I untick that, it now says go via. So this is a go via that will show up as an objective. So these are the go vias that show up as a thing in the top left corner of the screen. I should do that, and the player will see them. Sometimes that's good, particularly if you're routing a player through a manual junctions yard and you want them to go a specific way. You should probably tell them what that way is, and this is how you would do it. But in this instance, I don't really want that. I kind of want the routing to just happen behind the scenes. The player doesn't need to get involved in it. I am going to start the scenario on foot, Rob, on Mixer, yes. So what I can do is, instead of this, I can use a go via up here. So I can add a destination here, pick a location, and I can say route via that bit of track there. Say compile the timetable. It's still happy with it. We're still good. Go back here and click on that. Now you can see it's now routing me this way. And now we're routing that way round instead. Is that looking better, Ed? So this carries on going down here, and we run into Huddersfield Station. Right, so you can transparently reroute things, and all is good with that. What you should be able to see, there it is, so that you can see where that waypoint has actually been visualized. So that's so you can see these waypoints again. The other thing you can do is, let's say that I'm here on the route and I don't know where I am, and I want to know where this waypoint is. Yeah, this just says it's a location on the route. That tells me nothing. And I just click that, go back to the route map, and it's zapped me right to it. If you've got multiple monitors, by the way, this is so much easier. 3 monitors is an ideal scenario for this. 2 is much better than 1. 3 is perfect. Because you can have the map open, the 3D view open, and the timetable and other stuff working on a third screen. But 2 is much better. Okay, so we've got a train that now runs routes correctly. Would it be nice if the player loco started up cold and dark instead of starting up light? So let's, down here you can see we've got this spawn type running stopped preset. So running stopped or running active are basically very similar. What they give you is the train is engine running, warmed up, ready to go. All you really need to do is release the brakes and go. But the parked preset is the cold and dark. So if I click that, that loco will now start, shut down, and I have to do a startup procedure on it. So you can set scenarios up cold, you can set them up warm, however you like to. I'd recommend for the AI services you start them up with the running preset, but your player one, choose what you like. Do you have to input all the AI trains separately, or does your new scenario run within timetable mode? No, you have to input your own scenario, your AI trains, but it's quite easy to do. JJ Sells having a dig about monitors. Seriously, dude, you should see. I'm going to send you a picture of what I've got here. It will make you cry. Absolutely make you cry. The laptop is slightly adjusted for the off center from the middle screen. None of these screens are lined up, and there's a TV off center to the whole lot. It's just doesn't bother me. Okay, that's compiled, that's saved. We've done timetable mode for the time being. Back to the 3D view. Shall we start the scenario on foot? I'm thinking over here somewhere. So this is where we need to add scenery, specific scenery into a particular tile, because the player start object is specific scenery. So I need to go to the scenario scenery tool, which I've got down here on the other screen. I need to find my scenario definition and then enable scenery edit mode. And what this does is this layers another tile, another one of those UMAP tiles gets added, and now any scenery changes I make are unique to my scenario. So I can now make scenery changes, but in this instance all I want to do is add this player start. The first time you create a tile, so, it's SST, scenario scenery tile. The first time you create one of these takes a moment. Just give it a minute. Leave your mouse pointer clip down and it'll all be good. Just wait a moment. Could you make a custom spawn condition with a 33 with a head code set up? I believe you can. I can't remember how you do it off the top of my head. Right, so there is our player start object. And I'm going to rotate that so that it's looking in the general vicinity of our train. And I'm going to name it over here as Dem01 player start. And then we need to go back to the scenario definition. And in the scenario definition was a player start object. You click pick actor. Go back to the map, click on something, and hopefully when I come back here it says Dem01 player start. We're good. We're almost ready to give it a test. We're almost ready to give it a test. We need to do one more thing. In here, I need to tell it what services the player will do. So I've got player light loco, and I've got player passenger run. Now I don't want the AI to take over any of this stuff, so I need to block them. So player only services are 2. Player light loco and player passenger run, I think, wasn't it? Player light loco, player passenger run. So those ones now, the AI will, that's excluded the AI from messing with that now. So that's all good. That's all good. The timetable is compiled. I need to go in here and tell it to save demo pack 1. That's it. Don't worry about the rest. This is how you add the amphiletes in the LRR scenarios. Yes, yeah, you can add specific stuff. So that's exactly how you do it. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just having a quick check to see if I'm missing any questions. Shout at me if I'm missing questions, by the way, folks. Right, so we have a basic scenario set up. By the way, folks, there's a whole other element to this I'm not covering tonight, which is the scenario manager. The scenario manager is where blueprint magic comes in. That's where you can go into add event, and I can say, no, not in the game. Where are they? Objectives. So I can say, you know, when an action completes, or when the intro completes, or when something succeeds or fails, and then write loads of blueprint to go after it. So this is a bit like your Lua script side of things, but you can do a bit more, bit different things with this. This is quite powerful. Not going to touch this bit tonight because I want to keep it. I think I'm blasting you with enough information, to be honest. So that's our scenario. Shall we give it a try? If you drop the play button down, it says Demo Stream Scenario 1 is the current selected scenario. If it was the wrong one, then you just right click on it and do Set as Play in Editor. We make sure that's set to default player start, and we hit the play button. Could a weather change be done here in the blueprint thing? I have no idea, Beashlick. Controllable AI. You use the timetable to control AI. You can't dynamically control trains by like manually driving them via blueprint. Otherwise the dispatcher wouldn't have a clue how to keep up with that. How does overhead checking work? No, none of this track has been marked as electrified, so you wouldn't be able to run electric trains on this, no. So you can see we've started at the camera start. We've got our 33 here at Holbeck Demo. Holbeck Demo? Holbeck Depot. It's shut down, there's no smoke. Shall we have a look at the fuel tank? Fuel tank says we're running a little bit on the low side, so we need to go and get some fuel. Let's go and get in. Actually, part of the startup, we should probably turn the battery on. That's not the battery. That's the battery. Right. Start her up. brakes off. And let's go into the map. Now, the map, when you're running, so you'll notice I'm running the game in the editor. Yeah, this is the game running in the editor. That means I can do all sorts of funky things. Like, if I go to the timetable right now, you'll notice it's telling me what the current instruction of this service is. So if you've got a bunch of AI trains, you can see from the highlighted instruction what they're all doing, as well as other aspects that you can see because it's in the editor. So you can real-time debug what's going on inside. If you've got some simulgraph, if you want to look at simulgraph, then you can monitor the simulation assets in your locos and draw graphs in real time while you're running the game in this window. If you want to just test your scenario, you can press the F11 key and it'll blow it up to full screen, so you can see what you're doing a bit better. Meanwhile, in the map view, again, I can see the siding. If I hover over a loco, it tells me the service name. So you see in the bottom left corner, it says Player Light Loco. So that's the name of the service. So that's there. Let me just check these junctions. Right, we need to go to here. So let's pull forward. Playing in the editor is the same as playing in the game. Essentially, yes. The main difference is that it's not as fast. Playing in the editor is, it requires a much bigger machine, essentially, compared to playing the main game. It does run slower, so you'll stutter a lot more, and sometimes you're more likely to run out of things like video memory and so forth, because you've got everything in the editor loaded as well. It's kind of cooking on the fly and using half-cooked, even not cooked objects, which means it's just bigger. But it's perfectly fine for testing your scenario. My laptop is a Core i7 4790 with a GeForce 970 card on it, and I've got 32 gigs of memory. The editor runs perfectly fine in 16, but 32 is definitely recommended. I wouldn't recommend it below 16 at all. Right, so now I'm just going to do this from the external rather than go through the nauseation of changing ends. Change the junction for there, flip back into here, go on fuel. But for those that wanted to see 33 running on Leeds Manchester, I present 33 running on Leeds Manchester. If you wanted to run an SD40 on this route, then go for it, whatever floats your boat. How was it playing twice slightly out of sync? I have no idea what's causing that, Ed. Have you got two windows open, Ed? Is it playing twice for everyone else? Or has Ed got two windows open? Please tell me Ed's got two windows open. Oh man, I'm just not going to let him forget that. Oh, it's doing it there, is it? Oh. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm only running one copy of the game. Right. Oops. Let's get out, do the refuel. See the fuel is going up. I'm trying to think what would cause it. Hang on a minute. Has it all gone? Is the game audio gone completely now? It's all gone. Right. Right, now I've killed the audio. No, I turned it off completely. That was the point. I wanted to mute it. I can only hear you now. Sound should be back now. Still a bit of double. Oh. How about that? Right, so yeah, it turns out I had two sound sources enabled in OBS. So I shall take that fail. Right, and we'll put the fuel cap back on. Head back out to the siding. I'm not going to run the whole scenario. I'm just going to couple up to the coaches and get going, and then we'll do a little bit more to this, and then we'll start the next one. The mic is still working, yeah, sorry about that. I can't remember what the difference between running stopped and running active are, if I remember right. Apologies, Dr. Centurion. Someone did explain it to me, and I think one of them isn't really used an awful lot. Right, I am going to change ends this time. Always remember your straight air brake. The number of times I forget that, it's just painful. Put the red lights on the back. Switch that off. Good. Got a light to leave the yard. Just wait for the brakes to come off. Will future iterations of TSW make use of RTX ray tracing abilities? We'll have to see what the future holds, to be honest. There's no point implementing a feature like that for the very small number of people who can actually use it. If it becomes a mainstream thing in sort of the low and mid-range cards, certainly at least the mid-range cards, then it becomes a lot more interesting to look at. How would you add instructions to the player? I'll go back and show the timetable in a minute. In fact, while I'm driving here, if you look, these are the instructions I've set up, and you can see that we've now moved on to this stop at Leeds instruction. So I've set this timetable up, and oops, back here, and we're now following the instructions. Oh, I left the handbrake on. That was on. When did I really? Okay, why isn't that showing as on? Does the editor allow for the kind of third-party add-ons you see in TS1? Yes. Dum. Is there a reason we don't have working mirrors and TS? Is it possible not using RTT camera, or is it just a material? You could. Is it a good use of performance? Because a whole separate render thread, or a whole separate rendering for a mirror, I would argue is not actually a great use of frame rate, when you might use that frame rate for longer trains or more detailed scenery. Will cameras happen at some point? I expect they probably will, but certainly for the time being. Cab teleportation, Killicans, Control Minus and Control Plus. Anyone can do it right now from the comfort of their own home. Will you ever model walking into the engine room? It has been on some trains. It's done on an as-needed basis because they're quite expensive to model. Are there failure modes for engines themselves? There's nothing to stop third parties potentially implementing it, but not comfortably built into the game. Once you start blueprinting things, I guess you can kind of do whatever you like, but you start pushing the simulgraph into uncomfortable places. Do you mean on console, Dank Thunder? Now we set this to 1,000 centimeters, so I can just park it about here, and that should trigger, no problem at all. So now I can request to pass, and I've got clearance to proceed. Expensive to make, as in essentially the engine room costs as much as the cab or the exterior. It's quite expensive to make. It's quite a big job. There's a lot of detail in there. And an engine room of something like this loco, you've got actually, there's no coverage on the engine, so it's quite tricky. Can developers modify signal logic? So the minute you use things like change and modify, if you're talking about cooked content, no. If you're talking about can you create your own signals, yes, you can do whatever you like with those signals. Changing logic in anything is, I would say, probably not when it comes to cooked. As I've said previously in some of the studio updates, things may or may not be possible with cooked content. Assume not, and will hopefully prove otherwise later on. Can you add game features? Can you build a route with a safety system that isn't done in the game? Can you model it with the editor, or just... Yes, you can. You've got all the blueprint, scripting and everything else functionality, so you can create new safety systems, script entire train functionality, all of the... This is the same editor that our team use, so anything they can do, you can do. That's kind of the goal here, is we want to make it so that third-party developers and anyone external can have access to the same set of tools and just have the freedom to create what they want. But Woody, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what your stuff sounds like in the game. So the fact you can't modify Dovetail content shouldn't hold you back from creating your own. And to some extent, you might be able to modify sounds in units, but you'd have to start from scratch. You can't modify the sounds. What you can do is create a new sound set, a whole new sound configuration, and assign it the same way a reskin assigns a new material set to the loco. So you might be able to. Again, it's in the territory of let's find out when it comes out and have a look. Modifying things. A lot of you are going to want to do things, and the best thing to do is to have a play, and then let's find out what works and what doesn't, and what might need to be done to make that work, or if it's even possible. You can't modify stuff, nobody. That's what I'm saying. But what you could do is create a child object of the loco, create a whole new sound blueprint, and then assign that to the child object of the loco, I think. I've not tried it though. Nothing's been done to actively prevent that from happening. That doesn't mean it won't work though. Right. Do it again. Get back in there. Right, I need to set the coach up. Buffer up. No, I'm not going to cover route building in this stream, Dak London. I think we'll have plenty of content for people to think about with the scenario stuff. What I want to do though is come up with do another stream like this where we focus on route building. Right, now we get this one packed up. Turn all the lights off this time. Don't need lights at all on this end. Turn the straight brake off. We've got a green light to depart. Can it create fully custom maps? Yes, indeed. Just waiting for the brakes to release. Right. As soon as we get out of the low speed limit, we can actually give this thing some thrash. Enjoy that for a minute, and then we'll get back to making scenarios. Because one of the things I want to show you is something that timetable allows you to do, especially with the whole. I was saying about how coupling and uncoupling is really clever in the timetable stuff. What I want to do is show you how you can make the player and the AI interact a bit. So one of the questions that come up on GWE a few times is, can you make a 3-car and a 3-car join to become a 6-car? So we'll do that. We'll do that on this route, just because I like the one who won, and it's in this route. But we'll do that. We'll do a scenario where it combine, you stop and you wait for an AI train to couple to you, and then you drive somewhere else, uncouple, and then in the other half will go away with an AI train while you then go a different way. That probably is a really bad description, but suffice to say, splitting and joining of services all working. Editor for console, probably not TSW. Unreal, Epic haven't made the editor available for consoles, and I'm not sure how you would use this on a console, to be honest. The editor isn't out yet, Len Payne Crips. It will be on the Unreal launcher. So I think if you look back at the studio update articles that have been published recently, if you have a look on there, there's been links to. In fact, that question was specifically asked and answered, and there's links there to the Epic Games Unreal launcher. If you go and get that and get yourself signed up ready for that, because you need to create an account on their system, then you should be good. What about accessing third-party created content on console? Unclear yet at the moment, Cheesy Puff. Obviously, I would love that to be the case, but Sony and Microsoft have to be part of that, and we need to work out what to do. Now, third-party content published through Dovetail will just potentially can go through our normal channels. If it's freeware content, for example, I don't know how that might work. Trainsim fan, hold on. We'll be at 100% throttle not too long from now. I don't have an answer to that question, Woody. That's one that you'll need to talk to someone at Dovetail in the third-party team for. Right, a bit more speed. Percentage of speed accuracy, yes. So in the timetable, you can say on a stop at on the service definition, what the expected performance is, and that's then used in all the calculations. Have you found a max length for creating routes in UE4? No. We haven't tried creating massive routes, but in theory, they should. I'm not aware of a limit. The game only loads the tiles, so effectively it loads the tiles around you, so there's only ever the same amount of data loaded, regardless of if the route is 100 miles or 5 miles long. It'll only ever load the same amount of data and unload it as it goes. %, from should hit 60 just as we break the speed limit. Boom! There you go. How's that for timing? Our road chocolate and cream one I put in there. So yeah, you can imagine that. Oh yes, that was the other thing I was going to talk to you about. So notice this white line here. This is telling me what blocks are actually been currently occupied. This black line is which ones are currently allocated. So I can actually see all of the sections that are allocated by the dispatcher. So this gives me a real insight as to what the dispatcher's thinking, where it's going to route me, how it's going to do it, what it's thinking about, up to that point there. And I can see that that's signal W60, which is showing an aspect of stop. Turn the game down a bit then, so you can really see quite nicely what's going on. Now if you've got AI trains that you're following, then it's really useful to be able to see what's going on. Now this is an interesting one actually. If you look at you can see all this nonsense going on over here. This is it loading and unloading tiles. So you can see it allocated. That block there is now occupied. That block is now occupied, or track section. And then as the track of the train comes through, you can see it releasing the blocks. So that's now cleared. As it comes through, that's track section. That's now cleared. So you can follow what's going on and where things are going, why things are going, which is good. It's really handy actually to see what's going on in that. With the editor, you can run anything on anything TSW. I mean, if you put an electric train on non-electric track, it's not going to go anywhere. But there's certainly nothing to stop you doing it. You could, for example, put the ACS64 on sandpatch grade and have a GP38 haul it along the length of the route, for example. So anyway, let's move on to example number 2. Let's go back to this folder and create dem02. Show you how to load and unload cars like wells and auto racks. Yes, I will do that as well. One of the other things the route editor's got is this place marks thing. So this is how you can jump to locations on the route. Now for this bit I want to start at Newton Heath, so you have to wait a minute while it unloads and reloads to Newton Heath. Can you do a free roam thing where you just load in a train and drive wherever? No, because all the signals or the automatic points are controlled by signals which are controlled by the dispatcher, and it's a fairly rigid relationship. So you'd use the scenario creator to create the path that you want to go, and then you can go where you like within that area. Wow. There we go. It's getting there. So not only is there a teleport option, it gets even cooler than the teleport option of using the place marks. Because what if they want to go somewhere and there isn't a place mark there? Or more to the point, you just don't know the route and you've no idea what the name of this depot is that you want to start trains. Now you'll notice that it's above me because it hasn't moved my height, it's just moved my latitude and longitude. Let's wait for it to finish loading, which I don't know if you can see this green sort of pulse. Essentially this is just like it's not meant to be used for this, but I see this this green pulse, and you can see when it's moving freely and when it's not. Like for example, it's frozen at the moment, the editor is not responsive, but you can see it moving occasionally, and when it suddenly starts going freely like it has now, the editor is now going to react nicely to what I'm saying, what I'm doing. That means it's finished. You're better off just waiting for it to finish. You really are. Trying to fight with it is a losing battle. Like right now it's paused again because I'm only just loaded into this general area, so it's still got bits and pieces to find. There is, if you happen to click on the help button, which gets rid of it, you have got an FPS indicator here, and the public editor will switch it with it set on by default. So you can just use the FPS indicator just to see if it's returning back to where it needs to be, so you can see what you're doing. What you can also do on the route map is, so we're down here now at Holbeck. I want to put a train around about here. If I right click, I can jump 3D World. So if I now go back to Leeds Manchester, it's now jumped me to that location. So you can jump to the 3D World just by right clicking on the map and selecting it. I know that's what it's for, Cactus Juice, but it's that's what I use it for. I know exactly what it's intended for, but it provides a really nice visual indicator, so I leave it there. Right, okay, so let's get a... so we've created demo 2. I want to create trains. Once you've done this a couple of times, it's so easy. First time round, you'll probably want to find it a lot harder, but once you get the hang of it, and it only takes a couple of times to do it, it's actually really straightforward. Scenario definition, and there will be tutorials to cover all this stuff, so don't panic. Scenario manager, so load the timetable and set it to Leeds Manchester and save it. And we will shut down Dem01 just so I don't get myself completely confused. We'll just save the scenario manager. I'm not going to use that. There's lots of things that can be done to improve the editor, Peachlick, but I think our intention is to get it out sooner and then polish and improve it. If we wait until it's perfect, you never get an editor. But yes, already thinking along the lines of kind of a wizard, essentially, for creating a scenario. Right, so this is demo stream scenario 2. Demo 2. Description, this is the second demo with 101s doing their funky thing on Leeds Manchester. Right, the timetable, demo 2 is that one. We'll set those up in a minute. Let's set the date and time up. And we will set the weather. Again, we will have a nice sunny day. We'll leave the rain off. Set the scenario manager and the objectives. That's that done. Okay, so that's the scenario definition. We need the template open as well. Let's save that scenario definition. Come on, save it. Stop being difficult. Thank you. Right. We need to have... I'm just going to use the default 101s rather than create new. How to translate display text in another language. So under here you've got a localization dashboard, and inside the localization dashboard you can do all the localization stuff. If you just Google the Unreal Localization Dashboard, you can see the stuff that's in there and how to use it. That's all standard stuff. It's pretty easy actually. Right, so I want to create a formation which will be player 101, and it will be, this is going to shock you all, it'll be a 101, and I'm just using the standard scenario formations that were shipped with it. With all the annoying selection issues fixed. I'm not sure what you mean, Ben. Right, so I want to create a new service, which will be player 101. We'll start it at 10 o'clock. Why you get shaking graphics if you carry... I've got no idea, Stubby. I don't know quite what you mean. You have to send me a link to a video of it or sometime. Oxenbucks, I think this video will be put onto YouTube. It's obviously available on Twitch as well. Right, on the route map then, I need to place my class 101, which I'm going to place here. What I've forgotten to do is set that up as being our play and editor scenario. It's better. There's my 101. I'm going to drive the 101 into Manchester platform 13. So let's just go to drop Manchester Victoria platform 13, and we'll do that as a within, and we will end the service there. So that's the initial thing that you need to do. We will have another 101 coming in from up here at Red Bank Sidings, and I'm going to do new formation 101A, and we're going to create a new service. A, surprisingly enough. We're going to start that one at 10 o'clock as well. Actually, I'm going to start that at 10:05, just to give the player some time to get there first. And this is going to go to... No, it isn't. Just going to do a straight couple to. Couple to. Do you have to have a good computer to have the editor, Swerving Happy on Mixer? The min specs for the editor are reasonably beefy. I would say, for example, a minimum of 16 gigs of RAM for the editor. Right. So, couple that. So we stopped there, we drive to there, and we're going to end that service there. So what this has created is... my 101, if I compile, see that doesn't work. Oh, I haven't placed it. Let's place it, shall we? That's not the right place to place it. Let's place it in a different place. Place it in the place that works. Thank you. Alright, compile. No, it doesn't like that. Probably because I need to check. So the player 101, which is going to be the one on the western side of the consist, is 229. So I want to couple the front of that to the back of this. is it not letting me do that? How bizarre. Is the process for making service mode similar to this? Yep, it absolutely is. Do you want to see a service mode real quick? I'll show you what a service mode looks like. Show you Great Westerns. Reading. You won't be able to open this in the service mode. You won't be able to open this file normally, but that's what the service mode looks like. Enormous. But this is 900 services. This is all the HSTs. Up and down the route. Up and down the route. This is a 166. So you can see it starts at 6:15, stops at Reading, loads and ends. 2P12 then runs Twyford, Maidenhead, Burnham, Slough, and so on. And you can see how the services then link and join. So yeah, everything I'm showing you scales right up for service mode. And actually, this looks like a lot, but you'd be surprised. It doesn't take as long as you might think to create. It works quite nicely. But yeah, that's 900 services. So that's quite a busy timetable. Okay, so trying to work out why this doesn't work. Bear with me, folks. It's 229 D4B. I wonder if that's getting in front. Can you do bulk editing on that? Yeah, there's all sorts of bulk editing. So this is Automate tab. So what you can do is, for all the timings, for example, you run a thing called a simulate task, which will run the entire timetable at something like 20 times normal speed. And then it will, in here, populate these simulated arrival and completion times. You can then use Automate to then pre-populate a lot of the times actually in there that show up. Wrong location. Well, I could set a location. It shouldn't need it, but let's try it. Just in case that's why it's getting confused. You might be, yeah, that's probably it, actually. Let's put that there. That is 13, isn't it? No, it isn't. What was it saying? So yeah, you can copy paste. You can also, you've got this search facility here, so you can search for nodes. You can do an advanced search where you can find me anything that stops at this platform be between this time and this time, and it will give you the nodes. You can then shift click all of the nodes and edit by one click to have to change all of them. So actually you can make quite vast changes in very few clicks once the thing's built. Right, I'm trying to work out why this doesn't work. So we get here, we get to here. Let me just break that link and compile that. That's fine. So if we get to there, we can see that one of two. Because it thinks it's back to front. That's why it's confused. Because that's vehicle 1 and that's vehicle 2. Okay, because that's the start and that's right. Okay, well, I know what's gone wrong here. What I need to do is, when I placed it, if I click that backwards, because of the way that the track has been done, compile that, save it. That's now vehicle 1 and that's now vehicle 2. Which means that if I click on that bit, that's now vehicle 1, that's now vehicle 2. So that now should, apparently not. Let me check the other one out. Two and one again, same problem. Same problem. 1, 2. Okay. That's better. Now it works. Those two are now coupled up. So I'm just looking to see whether I've got any questions. I've no idea on Mixer. Someone's been spamming it. Right, okay, so that gets us into... So if I click at the end service here and have a look at the route map, you can see I've now got a 4-car unit coupled all together. So let's take that 4-car unit to Miles Platting. So we need to create a new service, which will be player service to Miles, and we'll create that at earliest opportunity. We are going to go to, and that is Miles Platting platform 2, and we're going to end the service there. No, we're not. Go to there, we do a load unload, and load unload of passengers. Good. And then we will do an uncouple. So when we uncouple, we are going to end up with, at the moment, 3 cars and 1 at the other end, and 1 we lose. We actually want to uncouple 2. Now, if we remember rightly, 229 is the one facing Manchester at this point. So I want to be driving back in 229. So I want the player service to be led by 229. So if I couple from the back, that's better. So 229 is now leading, and D4B are now on the player service, and F4, F88, which are on this side here, are on the blue pin, the formation. So I can take this and say go back to Manchester platform 13 and end the service. This formation here, I need to create a new service. So this will be 101B. I'll explain this again in a minute when I can show you on the map. And then you can go to, and we'll send this one on to Park, which is the next platform along, which is that one, which is Park platform 2. And go to end service. Right. Just do that, create at earliest opportunity. So what this is doing is a 101 starts here and works its way to Manchester. A 101 starts here and comes in behind it and couples up. You then get a 4-car player service from here to Miles Platting. The player then uncouples. An AI train takes the front 2 cars onto Park, while you take the rear 2 cars back to Manchester. Yeah, so this is the dynamic coupling and uncoupling of stuff, and AI taking over services, and AI coupling to what you're doing. So that is, I think that's fine. It is fine. So if we just check, coupling to that one, according to the route map, we've got our 4 cars. If we then stop at Miles Platting, we should find we've got 4 cars at Miles Platting. And then if we then do that one, we should have 2 cars all the way back. Yep, 2 cars back here. And here, oops, that one should give us 2 cars out to Park. So that's those trains joining and splitting and doing all of their fun stuff. So that's good. We need to start the scenario somewhere. So let's set up a player start point. So I need my scenario scenery tool window. Let's switch off for demo 1, go to demo 2 and turn it on. And then in here, drop the player start in. Law, yes, this is North TransPennine. That blue arrow is where it's pointing, so let's again point it roughly in the direction of the player train, and we'll name this one demo 2 player start. I need to come into here and pick that actor. I'll make sure that says Demo 2 Class Start. And I need to name my player-only services, which will be Player 101. Player service to Miles. And I think that's it. The other ones are AI. So we'll save that. That's all good. Route map looks good. Let's save that scenario scenery tile out. You can start in cab as well. I can't remember exactly how you set it up, but it's this area here. Start scenario driving train. And you can even tell it which seat in that train to sit in. So if you want to start in the conductor seat or the second man seat, you can do that as well. So yeah, you can do quite a bit in terms of starting in a particular train as well. That's certainly no problem. You don't have to start on foot all the time. Can you set dependencies? Yes, you can. Oh, sorry. Steele's just saying you can. I thought, why would you ask that question, Ben? Right, in here, if I wanted to set dependencies, I can't really do anything in here, but let's create an artificial example of a train goes to a place, and it goes to a place, and it goes to a place, and another train does something fairly similar. Let's say this is eastbound and this is westbound. I can say, until this location has finished, that one can't. So this white line is dependencies. So when this instruction finishes, it will let this train do its thing. So this train will go up to here and wait. Yeah, because it's not allowed to start that instruction. When this instruction finishes and moves on to that one, then the white line unlocks this one, and then this train can carry on. So what that means is that you can, for example, have, let's say you're driving the 101 down here, and you put a go via here, or maybe even here somewhere, and you put an AI train in here, and as you go via here, you trip a dependency which lets this train start, so that no matter how long it takes you to get to this point, you'll always see that interaction with an AI. So you can use it for that purpose. You can also use it for making sure things go in the correct order. So if you need things to go into sidings in a particular order, then you can make it to an AI will hold and wait for a player train to go in, and then the AI will come in behind it, for example. So yeah, those dependencies are quite clever. You can do quite a lot with those. Right, so I think we're all good actually. So let's go back to my demo and run it. Can you make AI train go from point A to point B on single track with few sidings? That's pretty much bread and butter, Raptor Engineer. Where are you seeing the challenge? What am I missing in your question? Yana Dunk's too early to answer that question, I'm afraid. I haven't got a good answer. It should be dead easy, but I can't give you exact steps. Once I can give you the exact steps, and they're all tested and working. We don't have a date for the editor at the moment. When it's right, really, is the answer to that question. I don't know, that's not what you want to hear. Wait. Going to pay too much attention to speed limits here. This is going to be very different to what you're used to when it comes to scenario creation, but what I've found is it's actually really easy once you get the hang of it, and you shift your head into how this thing works. I've found it much easier to think, well, how do I make this work with that? How do I make this train couple with that wagon? The whole coupling and uncoupling thing is really, really easy. While we're running down here, let me bring up the New Rochelle Newark service mode, so you can see the freight services, because that gives you a really good example of what a freight type thing. So this is the passenger stuff, which is just up and down, up and down, up and down. There's nothing particularly exciting about the freight stuff. But over here, this is the freight side of things. Sorry, did I say passenger stuff? Sorry, it's not particularly. But this is where you get a passenger train, or a freight train. There's 3 services there. So that's FO1, 2 and 3. Or FO1, 1, 2 and 3. Then you've got the FO2 ones, and you can see how they link together. You can see that these wagons actually get reused up on this train here. In fact, this joins 2 cuts of cars together that came in. So you can visualise much more clearly big complex movements that are going on. This is the big switch that takes place where you move wagons around the yard. So I just used a different vertical column for each of the sidings, and then moved the wagons between them. This is then moving the instructions into the final, the wagons in the final places, and then these are sort of some of the final instructions. So you can see that they're quite different. Freight stuff is very different to passenger stuff, but it all works quite nicely in the system. I think that was just fortune and luck, Eds, because it doesn't set the switches for you. This, by the way, this is something that happens. This overlay is part of what the editor gives you, whether you like it or not. It is quite useful, but can get in the way. It's just a conflict in the keys. The editor's got a bunch of keys that it uses, and the game's got a bunch of keys that it uses. I'm going to do another session at some point where we talk about the route builder. I need to prep for it. I've spent a couple of days prepping for this session, pre-designing these 2 scenarios, just to make sure I get them right, and can talk about features and that they include a bunch of stuff. I want to do the same thing for route, where we actually build a little route. So bear with me, and we'll come up with a proper time to do that. Do you get a dev console in editors? Yes, you do. So I can press the button here, and I can call up commands on the dev console. How big a deal task to make someone like Test Track? Probably not massive, actually. It'd be an interesting exercise for someone, to be honest. Coming up on that 15 limit into Manchester. By the way, I don't know if you haven't looked at it yet, and you haven't. I mean, some of you probably haven't had a chance to play with Manchester yet. There's a different. This is because this is manually lapped loco. You can operate it with the less than and the semicolon, the apostrophe is normal, but the slash will always put / will always drop it back into the lapped state, which makes a really, really big difference to how drivable I think it is. Would you ever change the name of the game from TS2 Prototype? You know what? We've looked at it, and it's a scary, scary process that will break absolutely everything. And to be honest, I'm sure rather than changing the name, you'd rather we got on more features. It really boils down to that. It absolutely is devastatingly bad to change the name of a project, especially when it's as far developed as this one is. So, probably not. That is something that the engineering team will probably kick themselves for a long time to come. But you know what? 2020 hindsight and all that. I just love this 101. The team have done such a good job on this 101. I mean, all the locos in this pack. I mean, I know I'm completely biased, but I just think this 101 is such a gem to drive. Most of the challenge is about getting the editor to interact with cooked content, as Killer Cans Gaming says. Yeah, it's the editor is what it is. It's all, we've based it around how Unreal 4 does things. So we've just tried to follow the way Unreal does things. So if you know how to use Unreal, then you'll pretty much be able to predict how to use the tool. So, and you can learn how to use Unreal. It's not a hard tool to learn how to use. Yeah, most of the challenge is about accessing cooked content, because that's essential. You can't make a scenario for it if you can't load the route and the train and test it. Right, so we've now stopped. This train is sitting there, and it'll be a couple minutes before it starts. What I am going to do is will the tools be released before Christmas? Unlikely at this point. Oh, 101, look at it. Isn't she beautiful? So, we're going to hang around here now. What time is it? I said it to run at 10:10, didn't I? Yeah, so at 10:10 it will start moving. It's only a minute or so away. So the editor, no, the editor is a version of Unreal. It's based on 4.16.3, if I remember rightly. Ben, correct me if I'm wrong. X-Shooter, so the real pain is in getting us to access everything without us actually accessing it. Kind of, yeah. It's like, how do you access all the content without needing all the source code? I know, Big Dog. You know what? If I was spending more time creating a scenario, we'd do it better. You can't modify the 2D map, no, Cactus Juice, not yet anyway. Can you show how to give instructions to the player whilst waiting? Oh, you mean text prompts and things. That's done in Blueprint, and I'm not covering that today. That's a more complex topic I've not prepared for. Yes. We'll cover that at some point in a following stream. Here he goes. Because there's a number of things you can do there with help tips popping up from the side. There's the voiceovers and the text at the bottom of the screen. There's a number of options there, and I'm not on the gameplay team. I help do some of the service mode stuff, but there's another team of experts that make all of that stuff, and I'm not really 100% familiar with how it works yet. So I need to spend some time and get my learn on, and then I can be in a better place to show you. So you can see we're now access blocking sections of track because we're now out of the yard, and we're following, and you can see the path that the track sections that are allocated. The other thing is that as I hover over it, it tells me it's section 8 on route 2 for signal Victor Echo 126 to signal Victor Echo 33, locked for service 101A. So you can see where it is in the route sections, which route ID it is, which two signals it's between, and what service has got it. So if you got complex AI running around and you think, well, what on earth has got that section there? You hover over it and you can find out. There we go. It's got permission to proceed. That has basically, what that's done is a tab. That's done a request to SPAD, and in fact in the log file you'll actually see that it says something like request to SPAD permitted or something like that. So it's literally just done the equivalent of pressing tab, because it's now entering an area where it's going into the vicinity of where I am. With the editor, what will Steam Workshop integration look like? I don't know yet, Asala. I've got ideas about what I want it to look like and that, but again, you're into the realm of beyond bleeding edge at that point, so. Here it comes. The other thing you'll find here is that AI trains stop and then advance. And in fact, what you'll find also is if an AI train, like I say a 33 comes up to those Mark 1s, it will stop, correct the couplings, and then advance up to it as well. So you'll see the couplings switch over from Buckeye to hooks, for example. This guy is clearly a bit brave. This is like me coming up. So he's now he's now pausing, and then he'll advance up in a minute, and then he'll couple. So you've noticed he's calculated. It doesn't matter where I've stopped. He's calculated where I am and stopped just in advance of me. That's it. We've coupled. Now this is now my train. How do you set the destination blinds for AI trains? I've not done it myself, but from what I gather, it's automatically detected based on the end destination of the loco. So if the loco is going to Leeds, then it will say Leeds on the top automatically. We've got a signal. What have I done wrong here? Oh. Let's do that, shall we? Hey, look, it works now. So we're just going to run over to Miles Platting now. So can you create service mode? You could create a service mode for your own routes, Adig Ryan. Whether or not you'll be able to create service mode for the DLC routes, I don't know the answer to that yet. That's something that's being discussed. Because it'll need some extra UI changes, because at the moment there's no way you can pick what service mode scenario to use. Right, so it's only about a mile to Miles Platting. So with the editor, then there is also support for multiple player civil service modes. Essentially, that's the whole thing. That if you want to do, there is no ability for multiple service modes at the moment, because the UI can't support it. The game can support it. There's no reason to say, you could right-click that, set as play and editor timetable, set your time to sort of say I want to start at 10 o'clock, press the play button, and off you go. But that's not via the user interface. Trust me, you don't want to spend your life playing the game in the editor. It's great for testing scenarios. It's not the best way to enjoy the game. This opens significantly more complex scenario possibilities then. That's kind of what I wanted to... So one of the reasons that I wanted to do this stream was to, or we wanted to do this stream, was to give you guys food for thought over Christmas. Have a think about it. You can kind of see some of the stuff the tools can do now in terms of scenario creation. And at the beginning I did give an overview of some of the route creation stuff. So you know what trains are available, what rolling stock is available, what routes are available. What do you want to create? What's the scenario you're going to create? Start writing some notes down. Maybe talk about it in the forums and so, sort of discuss, this is the kind of thing I'd like to be able to do. This is an idea. A train could start here and do here. Could I then do such and such, and ask the questions? And let's get a discussion going about the sort of what sort of gameplay do you want to see. Now I've only just run Leeds Manchester, but obviously there's Roseig, there's North East Corridor, there's Long Island. What kinds of things do you want to be able to do? And let's just get everyone's creative juices flowing. Hopefully what you've got so far from this session is a reasonable idea of the sort of the capabilities of train movements. For example, from other scenarios that you can call up text prompts, you can call up tooltips and things like that, and we can go into that in more detail at another point. But have a think about the kinds of timetables that you want to create. What kind of scenario, what challenges do you want to create? You're looking forward to seeing a possible competition on custom routes. That would be interesting, Estella, actually, yeah. How far are we now? 500 yards. In fact, it's going to drop to speed. Let's drop the speed down to 20. There isn't a release date yet for the editor, JD Custard. Keep an eye on the usual channels at trainsimworld.com and Dovetail Live, and you should get the information once it's available. But nice to use the OH shunting stuff around the station while passenger service go in and out. Yep. So we get to Miles Platting, and we need to do a load unload. In GWE, the overhead and third rail don't work down demand, they're just scenery items. The game didn't actually have the capability for it at that point. But it does work on other routes, like Roseig. It is very specific. If you try and run an electric engine on non-electric track, it will tell you about it. Right, so we stop, get rid of that rubbish. Objective complete. Yes, you can set the loco number. I can't remember the process by it, but yes, you can manually fix the loco number, Alex. Alright, that's doing our load passengers. Can you do banking engines? So you can do banking engines. They work the same as in TS1, whereby once you couple up, the whole train is yours. because at the moment you can't mix AI and players in the same train. You need to talk to the third-party team about that, JD Custard. If you get in touch with our third-party team, I can't remember what the URL is for it at the moment, but if you ping a support message in via Keiko, then by the support system, then they can put you in touch. What's the key to switch gears? Control A and Control D. Alex Media, yes, you could indeed make your own formation with a 166 two-end cars and take out the middle car. Don't see any reason why that wouldn't work. Right, so if we lock the doors and then stand up and get out, we have to uncouple two vehicles down here. Hopefully, with a fair wind, you just love it when you test something and it works. When you come to do it live, it doesn't. Yeah, he's got the road, he's got a path set out. I wonder if it still thinks I've got the train, that's why. I just get in the wrong cab for a minute so that you can see it. Yeah. There he goes. Because I hadn't released that train. And then I can drive this one back. Dick Ryan, it's better if you ask questions about what you want to achieve and then I can answer those. Yeah, I probably ticked an EOTD flag. What would happen if you aren't at the point you're supposed to be when the AI train starts moving? Nothing would happen. Essentially, it would wait until it got there. It'll sort of effectively it all starts delaying and skewing until such a time as when you do get there, then it will start moving. So that wasn't a timed instruction. But if I'd set that to go, say, at 10:20, and I got there at 10:22, uncoupled it, it would just get on and do it. So I don't need to drive this to the end. You can kind of see what was there. So what I wanted to do there was show something you really haven't been able to do previously, with services coupling up to you driving the resulting service, or an AI could have driven that and I could have been as a passenger, and then uncoupling and having an AI take that other service away and turn things back into AI again. So you can do that stuff now. So you've got some real runarounds. You've got shunting in yards. You've got all kinds of things. Like a train could come in and drop off some freight cars in a siding, and then you could pick those up, or you could pick them off, drop them off in a siding, and then a switcher comes out and takes them starts doing stuff with them. So there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do now in terms of routing trains and that kind of thing. Loading wagons. That was probably the last topic that I wanted to cover. So if we go back to Newton Heath, just because it's got yardage and trackage. It's a technical term, by the way. So let's go back over here, and purists will just have to forgive me. I'm going to put some American freight cars down now. So if we go back to my scenario here, demo 2 trains, and in here we will create a data asset called a train information, and this is going to be stack 1, and inside that I'm going to put a Gunderson Husky stack, and I'm going to leave it empty. And back to this one. I'm just going to duplicate that, call it stack 2, and duplicate that and call it stack 3. In this one I'm going to say cargo loaded. I'm going to say with container, white cargo container, and I'm going to put 1 unit on it. And in the next one I'm going to say cargo loaded with a random cargo container, and put 2 on it. And then over here, let's just create a couple of formations. This one can be stack 1. This one can be stack 2. And this one can be stack 3. Whoops. So we've now got 1 Husky stack in each of these. Let's now place them onto the routes. And save the time to go compile and save. If we now run the scenario, you can see where they've appeared. So hypothetically you could put sand patch containers on the GWE wagons. I don't know. Right, so, and as you can see, we've got nothing. We've got 1 wagon container. We've got 2 containers. So when you're loading, if you're loading bulk aggregates, for example, you just put the volume of the aggregate that you want to put in there, and if it's single assets like containers or cars or something, you just say how many you want, and then it's set to put assets in the correct loading locations for that stuff. So that's how you load them. No, I did look at the auto racks, and I haven't so far been able to find a way of getting the cars in them, Yuri, so leave that one with me. I don't think you can. I think there's each one of these wagons, essentially you have a node on it which says where you start loading, where you put a node where each of the loading points are. So in this case there's 2, 1 there and 1 there, and then there's an order, so it can't fill that node point until that one's filled, and things like that. So you can yeah, it's kind of like that. Is there a limit to the amount? No, because there's only 2 loading points on this, and you're filling up 1 or you're filling up 2. Okay, folks, I think that is probably going to cover it for the time being. Let me just give you a quick recap of what we've covered and what we haven't covered. So, creating scenarios and using just a timetable system, so no scripting, just using the timetable system and covering some of the things you can do with the timetable system, which is very powerful. And try playtesting a couple of things. I've shown you that you can put stock from different routes on different DLC packs across each other. So we had the 33 with the West Somerset coaches on Leeds Manchester, so that's 3 different packs we were using at that point. And at the beginning I also gave a brief overview of some of these track laying tools, and also some of the tools here for basic route tile generation and dem importing and so forth. So I think that's it for the time being. Thank you very much for watching. I would personally really appreciate, we would appreciate some feedback on this kind of stream. This has been potentially really technical, and it would be really, really good to know, was it the right level? Was it too fast? Was it too slow? Was it too much driving? Was it too much editing? Just if you could drop some a thread on the forums or provide some feedback via Facebook, whichever is your preferred mechanism, and just let us know what you think about this kind of thing. And I think we would like to do more of this kind of thing. So in the future then I can cover topics like route building, I could cover rail vehicle creation, could cover reskin creation, could cover more advanced scenarios with the blueprinting and so forth. So there are a stack load of other topics, and this is separate to doing things like tutorials proper. This was not intended as a tutorial. This was intended as a walk you through some stuff, get your brain going, and see if you can start thinking up some really awesome ideas. Now you know what's inside the hood of this thing, and hopefully you can completely agree with me. There is an editor, and it is coming, as soon as possible. Yes, thank you very much for watching, folks. And I do really hope you enjoy Leeds Manchester. It is such a fun route, and I'm looking forward to playing it myself as well. Alright folks, thank you very, very much. Have a great Christmas if I don't speak to you before. I'll see you later. Bye bye.